Hi, I'm Ken Shirilla, and I'm here in the kitchen with Mary Rogaliki, and she is going to show us how to make Rogaliki. So, Mary, do you want to do a shot of vodka before we get started?
Absolutely.
I think every Polish baker should do that.
Here we go. This is Chopin. This is the vodka of my choice in my freezer. Na zdrowie.
Na zdrowie.
Okay, now we're ready to bake.
Yay. And by the way, Mary is a two-time champion baker of the Simply Slavic Baking Contest.
Okay, this recipe actually is really easy. Once you do it, you'll keep going back to it. It makes a great cookie for a wedding tray, or basically this is a cookie for Christmas. What you're going to need are 2 cups of flour. 2 cups of flour. There we go. You're going to need 1 cup of butter. Always use butter, ladies. Don't try to cheap it out, just use butter. You're going to use 3/4 of a cup of sour cream and 1 egg yolk. If you're fortunate like me, my neighbors have chickens here and I always get fresh eggs. So I'm going to get this really yellow egg yolk in there. Drop it in there. And give it a quick mix with the whisk. And you'll see how easy this is. There's no salt because there's enough salt in the butter. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take this flour and butter and we're gonna go ahead and put it in the mixer and make it till a crumb. Oops. We're gonna make it till the crumb forms. Kind of like you're doing a pie crust. It only takes about 25 to 30 seconds with your good old KitchenAid. And we'll just pop this all back in there.
Can you make these without a mixer if you don't have a mixer?
Yes, you can use a pastry knife, or you could use 2 knives together. So as long as you get that crumb, and then you
that
take
texture. Yeah.
So then you go ahead and put your sour cream mixture in. Okay, we're going to get it all in there. All right, so we're going to put this back in there. And we are going to mix this up until it's nice and smooth. We're gonna get all this back in there. Then we're gonna take this, squish it down. We'll get some press and seal. Best thing they ever invented. So I'm going to take my press and seal and put my old blob of dough on here. Scrape it all out of here. Plop it on the press and seal. You can stick it in a bowl. A little bit of flour could help, but it's not necessary. So there you go. So now we have the dough. So you're going to want to squish this around a little bit, make it into a ball, and this goes in the refrigerator overnight. So, overnight, it's magic. So
You have your dough.
Okay, you have your dough. And you cut this in quarters. So take a little flour, put it on your pastry mat. Very important, use a pastry mat, ladies and gentlemen. Makes life so much easier. So you take this, and you're going to do a circle about the size of a pie crust. So nice flour on there. It doesn't have to be perfectly round like a pie crust. Add a little more flour if it feels sticky. Okay, so that's about the size of a pie crust or so. So then you're going to take your butter. Got about a tablespoon of butter in here. 10 seconds in the microwave. Maybe 20. Maybe 20. It doesn't matter. It's good for you.
You have time to do another shot of vodka.
I do have enough. Who took the vodka?
Put it back.
He put it away.
Somebody else drank it.
My
An elf.
husband's fired. Put the vodka away.
An elf got it.
Yeah. Anyway, so okay, so here we go. We got the melted butter. Always use butter, ladies. Always use butter. So we're going to take this and pay particular attention to the edges, because that's where all the good stuff is. So you're going to give it a nice coating around the edges, and then go ahead and slap it around the middle some till it's covered. Okay, then you're going to take your cinnamon sugar. So what I do is I like to get it around the edges pretty thick, so it gives you a nice little bit of sweetness and caramelization once you put your nuts in. So here we go. All right, and then fill in the middle. All right, so that's that. All right, so then you take your walnuts. You can chop them pretty fine. So the secret to these cookies is you put the edges pretty heavy. You put the nuts around here pretty heavily, and that will give you a good base for your cookie. Now you could use pecans if you want, only I don't because I'm cheap. So, so here you go. Then a few nuts in the middle. And these big pieces, sometimes you end up with big pieces. Just crunch them up with your fingers. That'll be fine. So then, if you use a pastry mat, it'll give you the arrows on here where you cut your dough across. So you actually want to cut this kind of like a pizza. So you cut it in these slices first. And then you cut them again. So you have all these great little pieces for your cookies.
Mary, I have a question.
Ask away.
Those nuts are just plain crushed nuts. There's no sugar or anything added to them? Okay.
Nope. They're just plain walnuts, chopped fine. Okay, so then once you get these guys all done, oops, this helps. Get your little cookie sheet out, and this is how you get the nuts in the middle. You take this first flap and you kind of give it a good flip over that pile of nuts on the very edge. There you go. So here, and then with these rogaliki, rogaliki means little antlers. So you have to give them a little twist so they kind of look like antlers. Oh, that's a big one. So, and it doesn't matter. People are going to go and grab the great big ones first. So if you're not fast enough, you'll end up with the little tiny ones. So my advice is to grab them first.
Don't be shy.
No, don't be shy because they go really fast. And the good thing about these cookies is that once you really seriously learn how to make them and don't feel intimidated by doing a sour cream dough like this, they go really fast. So Yeah, so when I make these, people ask me for these for weddings all the time. And I'm happy to oblige because they think I worked a lot. And it's just rote for me now. So, here we go. I'm gonna put these down here and then do a couple more. So, and if you notice, I give that first flap, I flip it over pretty far. I flip it over pretty far so it scoops up all those nuts that I put on the very edges. A couple more. Give them a nice twist, twist. Whoop. And if they're ugly, it doesn't matter. Those are the ones you give to your husband. He's like the guinea pig. All right. So here, 2 more.
So this recipe is pretty easy to double or triple.
It actually is.
If you want to bake them for a large group.
Yep. This recipe with the 2 cups of flour and the 1 cup of butter makes about 4 dozen. And the nice thing about this is that if you're working on these all day long, you could just take that, clean it all up, and plop it back in with the rest of them. All right, so these go in the oven, ta-da, at 375 for 15 to 17 minutes, depending on what your cookie sheets are made out of and how your oven bakes. So we're gonna wait now. Okay, so here we go. This is what they look like when they come out of the oven. Ta-da!
Beautiful.
Okay, so then you can either take these and while they're still warm, you can put them in maple sugar or vanilla sugar, but my husband likes maple, so I do maple. So I make a little glaze. It's 1 cup of powdered sugar, a tablespoon of butter, and 3 tablespoons of half and half. And then I use about a 1/4 teaspoon of maple flavoring. It's a maple oil, so it gives it a great taste, and it's not that funky brown color. I know. So then all you do is you take them and you give them a little bit of glaze. And these actually go really quick once you're used to them. And on a cookie tray, they look great if you really take your time with them. But, so they look great on a cookie tray. People always ask me for this recipe, and I'm happy to give it to them simply because it's so simple, and I like to share the tradition.
And that's what Simply Slavic is all about.
That is exactly what it's all about.
Honoring our Slavic traditions and sharing them with others.
Right. This is kind of like a kolachiki, maybe it might be. You know, like a little tiny kolache. But so if you don't have time to make kolache, or if you're not inclined to, or you don't know how, this is a great substitute because it kind of sort of tastes the same, but with a lot less aggravation. And if you're new to baking any of these Slavic cookies, that this is a great introduction into them because it's a really simple recipe, very few ingredients. I have never had this, even when I started baking these as a teenager 100 years ago. I never had a fail on this. So as long as you start with good ingredients, you'll never have a problem. These will be great, and your family will love you.
That's impressive that you've never had a fail. That's great.
I have never had a fail with these. I've had a fail on a lot of things, but not on these. It's just a really simple but good recipe. And This one I don't mind sharing. This is a great recipe. Even little girls can learn how to make these because it's kind of like Play-Doh. The dough is kind of has the consistency of Play-Doh once it's in the freezer overnight. And kids like these. Not as much as men. Men love these because with the nuts and with the maple, my husband loves me when I make these.
And we're lucky to have a live audience right now, too.
We
so
do.
Maybe some of the audience members can try to make these someday.
No.
No?
No.
I will.
You will? Okay. Ken's sister said she's going to make them. My husband, not so much. He's only interested in eating them.
And here's Mary's husband, Rich. We have to get him in the shot.
Definitely have one.
How are they, Rich?
We're gonna get a big one. That's okay.
Like they're supposed to be, correct?
That's right.
Beautiful.
These are wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Mary, for inviting us into your kitchen and showing us the recipe. And I'm sure a lot of the people watching this will be happy to try to make these in the near future.
Yes, I'm just sad that the circumstances are that we can't all be together, but so, you know, maybe next year.
Hopefully next year. Okay, thank you very much, and good luck, everybody.